like I kind of understand where he's going with that, because he mentioned that gold is hitting all-time highs in these other currencies, and so that it seems like gold is, like you said, kind of attached to the dollar in a weird way.
Right. Kind of.
And so
Yeah,
I
just
mean,
because it's denoted in dollars.
yeah. So like I wonder, is there like he said, it's the biggest trade of all time, but he didn't tell me what exactly that trade was, or at least I might have missed it. But is he implying? Are you drinking my coffee? No coffee. Is he implying that, you go into buying gold and let the dollar rise, like he was talking to that spike, and then sell out your gold? Or
So
what's his like methodology to his
So I
like this
think that's
concept?
so I
Like
think
where
that's what
does
it
it stand?
was. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think it was like a spiking dollar means price decrease and a dropping dollar means price increase, just because like the US debt's denoted in dollars worldwide. But with the whole the big play that they were talking about, I think that they were trying to say that right now, while stocks are kind of dropping in a sense, you can actually utilize the leverage of the dropping of the stock to then capitalize with a dollar cost. Ultimately, the dollar, they're seeming with this milkshake theory, will increase before it goes down. And if it increases before it goes down, ultimately that means that gold will be able to be purchased for more quantity on the dollar. And in that event, it would be a big play, because what they're saying is what's happening in the markets right now, it's completely crashing. So you can buy the markets with cheap dollars right now. And then when the markets rise, you can transfer the market shares into dollars. And then once you transfer those into dollars, you can then buy gold with those dollars. And then when the dollars go back up, you sell the dollars into that. And then ultimately, when the dollar rises, gold will go down, and you make the play back into gold at that time. So the end goal is to be holding gold that's worth much dollars. And how you do that is with the stock plays, just like we talk about all the time, which can be their own segment series.
Wait, so you're just basically balancing in and out of gold more or less. But you said we do it
Exactly.
with stock plays we're talking about now. Are you talking like doing like buying the GLD, the gold ETF, those kind of plays?
So this can be our analogy, right? We can coin this own term, and we can just run with this and receive all the royalties and the trademarks, right? So this can be the name of our company, right? We'll have the wine glass theory. So it's pretty much when the wine glass is sitting on the tabletop and it's still, you see no motion, you see nothing, you see complete stability in the market. You can say, if the fluid dynamic flow would be considered the market economic. It's still, it's stationary, it's stable. When you pick it up and you start to gyrate it and motion it around in a circular fashion to check if it has legs and all things like that, right? That's creating the turbulation in the marculence in the market. And when you see the rundown in back to the stability, like if you do that like maybe three motions and then you set it back down on the table, all the rundown that you see going back into the ultimate pool, those are the opportunities that we kind of see. So when they say flow into stocks, flow into gold, flow into dollars, flow into stocks, I'm just now realizing that you can actually do that in a complete fluid flow based off of the market structure.
Ooh, so you're thinking there's like indicators that we could start learning to say, oh, this is the next play,
Right.
and move like as we see indicators.
Into different marketplaces.
Hey, can I call you right back? Katie's calling me, and
Of
like that's
course.
probably not good.
Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
let me shoot you a call right back. I'm cool. So recording.
Yep.
I'll talk to you in a sec.
Yep. Sounds good, my friend. Take it easy.
Thank you. Bye.
So I just wanted to put that on hold really fast. Let me see, make sure nothing else is gonna start playing. I had music going earlier. All right, sounds good. So we're just gonna wait for him to come back real fast. No worries. So something I did want to touch on though while this was still going is another aspect of it. This was a separate video that I can make a longer segment on if we're interested in this, and you can drop it down below if you like this part. But something that I had found out as well was that Ireland has a very, very high, or very, very low, I should say, has a very, very reasonable tax on their corporations. So actually, the just the fact of having international agencies, international headquarters over in Ireland, it's actually supporting the actual economy of Ireland. So the entire economy is rising in Ireland simply because the low taxation on corporate structures that are in Ireland, because all of the US dollar holdings that are generated in that area. So I really, really saw that as an aspect of inflation, just like we were talking about before, be it artificial or not, it still allows a certain level of ability to then gain momentum. And actually, this goes into another video today, and maybe it's inappropriate to be touching base on this in the dollar milkshake theory. I do apologize, but it does touch base on what I'm talking about with the strength and power that this gives. The Irish nation, I forget the name of this lady, she just was a secretary and she addressed the UN nations earlier today, and she was suggesting that Palestine actually be reinforced, and that she was saying that Israeli occupation be actually pushed back out of that area, and that she was supporting that the fact that she believed, and that the world believes, that it's a global crime to be in that nation and to be there in that false occupation. So that level of power, that level of say, that level of presentation, that level of ability to then present to a public domain, because you were able to make your own nation independent, fight off corruption, fight off the aspect of being overthrown because of this artificial inflation. So there is great potential to the artificial inflation, getting back on point of the overall milkshake theory principle here. So this is just something that is very, very big. It's very, very moving, and if as long as it's understood, that's the biggest thing. As long as people understand it, I think that much can be done, and it should be explored for sure. Something that I might touch base on when we get our friend Chance back on the phone here. Funny enough, the dollar being the leper with the most fingers. I think that's hilarious. The dollar is the leper with the most fingers left. So when you're trying to pick your foreign currency to hold your savings in, just the fact that the dollar is the leper with the most fingers left suggests that we're actually going to be better off than other nations. And while people do hate us on that one, it's not something that I put in place, but it's something that I will try to utilize so I can secure the security future of myself and my family. So, the concept with the dollar rising as the gold rising, and both of them matching each other in equal stride, I think is very, very important to suggest the fact of their exchangeability. And right now, I feel is a good time that if you are sitting on holdings on either markets, that you should be exchanging between the both of them as they do change and fluctuate in value, even if that's only a few percent. It's a very volatile time that if you have the ability to do so, you should try your best to do so. I think it's very interesting how they were saying that things will happen very slowly until they don't, and how that's a top theory on that. I support that. I support that 100%. That things will happen very slowly, and that history shows us how slowly things were happening. Not even 200 years ago, 80 miles would have been insurmountable, unless it was a life or death situation. Then you forcibly do it. You'd forcibly do the trail run, and you would do it. You do the race. But it is now only an hour's drive, half an hour drive if you're speeding. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. We can now literally cross plane. So it will happen very slowly until they don't. And I think that's a very important principle that needs to be understood, and it needs to kind of be realized that we're now seeing that concept come to fruition. When we take a step back and we just look at it, just like I was talking with Chance about, technically it's working right now. Technically the system is working right now, and it's a very complex topic that does need to be summarized in a kind of a linear fashion in order for it to be understood. when we see how the markets transitioned off the dollar gold standard in 1971 up until 2020, when we see the history that's come to be, technically it's been working. It's very complex, but technically it's working. And something that was a fear that Brett had said was that as the dollar rises, he's afraid that people will get knocked out of their gold holding positions, because he's thinking that as gold rises, people will liquidate into the dollar market, which will then strengthen and have gold fall. But we are coming from the perspective of college students. From the perspective of college students and from the perspectives of millennials, this is an on-ramp. This is an on-ramp, is what this is. It's an accelerated on-ramp. It's like we all remember playing Space Cadet, right? On the computer. We all remember playing it on Windows, right? With the whole I don't really want to get into the whole topic of that, but we remember playing it. Whenever you would hit the ball and it would jump up into the pinball and it would go all around. The speed boosters, that's what's happening right now. These are the speed booster times where we can take off in an accelerated fashion. And I believe not only me, but what the milkshake theory principle says is that the liquidity squeeze into dollars is going to have dollars to operate, because with government holdings and nation debts and stuff like that, hedge fund holders, not all can hold dollars, but some will have to hold assets. And the liquidity squeeze into dollars, having to have dollars to operate, I feel is going to kind of send that inverse relationship that we were just talking into a selling opportunity. And ultimately, from the millennials' perspective, a selling opportunity is a buying opportunity. Over time, they thought the dollar would fall, so I feel that they borrowed really big. But now that the dollar actually is rising, we can't pay back the tab that we took out. In 1971, when we moved off of the gold, how can paper hold value? How is this working?